You won. You won.
I would have had it way longer, but I started laughing.
I also gave in to the laughter.
The absurdity of it just like suddenly got to me, and I was like, "Oh fuck!"
Lol to random.
Hey everybody, it's going off. It's Rap Critic and Muse, and boy oh boy, if you thought that just because last week's episode was, you know, the 330th episode that we weren't going to give you a reviewer's choice episode, you're sadly mistaken. It got pushed back an episode, so here we are, episode 331.
That's right, and Rap Critic ain't running no more.
Oh, yes, the rumors put them all to rest. RC
the legend of Rap Critic in California. Parental guidance suggested.
Will be completely fucking ignored. That's a wrestling reference. I was gonna say you're back, but you're not back. You're still on location.
Well, I was just visiting fam in Texas. Now I'm out in California. Look, the RC takes the U.S. You know what I'm saying? I'm all over your map. You know, you can't stop me. You can only hope to contain me.
Ain't no one safe.
That's right. Headed to New York next, but who knows when and where? Well, I mean, I'm going through Amtrak, but that's none of your concern. Other details than that.
Hey, well, before we get into anything, I need to shout this out because I just saw this maybe 5-10 minutes before we started recording. RC, we've been doing this show for 9 years.
In a row?
37 years in a row. And we have finally got our first Going Off animated. At Idiotic Eli on Twitter has animated a Going Off segment from our 3 Feet High and Rising De La Soul episode. If anyone out there wants to do a Going Off animated of a segment of the show, I'm just going to say we encourage that shit. I love fan interaction and stuff like that, and seeing different people appreciate what we're doing in their own different ways always makes me so happy. And it's very fulfilling and gratifying.
Like, I mean, animation in general, so I like seeing, like, in relation to, like, oh, this thing that I was thinking of in terms of this crazy scenario, and then, like, them illustrating that in a fun way. Like, that's always kind of cool. Like, I feel like I'm fucking Robin Williams out here when they were doing the, you know, when he was doing the stand-up and they were animating it to it, and the Aladdin shit. Like,
oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. I'm, like, fell backwards into voice acting.
Fucking animateds, fan art, all that shit. I welcome all that stuff. It fucking fills my heart with so much joy. So thank you so much again, Idiotic Eli on Twitter. That was great. If you want to do more, feel free. I would love to see them. But with that, we have got the reviewer choice albums, RC. For people who didn't see, which I'm going to say is probably 99.9% of the people listening right now, who didn't see that video I had made about the history of compilation albums, RC, in that intro bit, that compilation, that little montage, people talking about their first CDs, you had said that Return to the 36 Chambers, The Dirty Versions by ODB was your first CD, and that is what you've brought to the table today. And myself, not to be outdone.
Oh, indeed.
Brought to the table, and it is my pleasure to introduce to the listening audience, because you look on Spotify, these songs don't have many streams. I'm going to go ahead and say that probably no one listening to this podcast has ever heard this album before, and I hope that changes after today. Art is Shit by Andy the Doorbum. Charlotte, North Carolina music legend. Local boy makes good. And this was an album from 2009. He's had quite a few come out since then, but this one holds a significant spot in my heart because it's the first one I'd heard of his, and it had a lasting impact on me. And above all else, I just wanted to hear RC's opinion and reaction to it, so we're gonna get to that. Genre-wise, how would you describe this album?
Jagged noise rock, sort of like a, because it's going for a very overloading the sound thing, but not in a full band sort of way. You can tell like it's him, maybe like, a one-man band sort of thing going on. But then he'll have like a weird country sort of twang to it, like it's the 80s, and they're kind of doing that thing where like, oh, we're just mixing mandolins every now and then, you know what I mean?
It's like Mountain Man,
Yeah.
like country,
Bluegrass noise rock.
Yeah, I would say it definitely leans more towards the bluegrass because it's almost all acoustic. There's some electric elements, but not much. 90% of the music on the album is just himself. He has a couple friends helping out, but for the most part, it is a one-man production. Some of the most, like, lasting lyrics for me that really just stick with you. Some, like, haunting, sometimes funny. Some very dark shit on this album. Some of the most expressive vocal deliveries.
No doubt.
You're gonna get. You're gonna get some smooth, very from the heart singing sometimes, and you're just gonna get some straight up throat burning howling. And it's just all over, and you're getting all of it. The range and emotion and subject matter on this album is so fucking weird and intense. Did you have any favorites or songs that stuck out that you weren't so hot on?
Okay, so first off, initially with the very big country twang and big sky rockers. First off, I was having audio visions of your boy and our boy, Big Sky. Who's the masked singer, the masked country singer? You know what I'm saying?
Orville Peck.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So, but it was this way more jagged feel to it. So it was like a little higher up in the mountains. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Burn Barrel is like this weirdly visceral intro that was like these hyper in-your-face vocals and vocables and shit like that, where it's just like, what is happening? And then I get to, Frame of the Flowering Eyebrow, and I'm like, oh my god, the only way I can describe it is these fried grown-up Ed from Ed, Ed and Eddie vocals. They're just so grimy. Like, I did not think you could get more guttural than Tom Waits, but here the fuck we are.
Yeah.
Setting of the Fourth Sun just took me off guard with the instrumental that it was, basically, at the end of the day. Jack Ketch, this fucking... It felt like, the Beach Boys' nephew, 40 years later, you know what I'm saying, doing their own weird, abstract, weird shit. You're wearing your skin so tight, like it's never gonna rot away. Like, oh, whoa, what the fuck, man?
I took notes of so many lyrics that when we actually get a chance, I gotta go through some of these. But yeah, that is, oh boy, that's just one of the visceral ones that stick with you.
And then catching the moon in a mason jar with just these opening shot lyrics will just be so fucking powerful. I'm looking at a man who's in a tree talking about a woman that only he and I can see. Like, just how it just throws you off a little bit. You're thinking it's like, oh, it's going to be about him observing this crazy, he's also crazy? Oh, man. And Caldera of Wyoming, the next time summer comes, that bitch will be brutal. Jesus Christ. And Grandpa, oh my God.
Oh man, Grandpa
the
number
devastation, 2. Emotional damage. What else were the really big ones? For the weirdness of it, deity or Deity?
I don't know how to pronounce that either, but yeah.
Yeah, the fucking Koyana Scotzi in song form of it all. Just the sampling different weird shit that's colliding with each other and maybe saying something about each thing, but maybe not. I don't know.
Maybe not.
Yeah. And then Love Song for Cigarettes, of course, later on in the album.
Oh my god. Yeah.
And then the final Rock and Roll is Dead, of fucking course. But the thing about the album is like, it's just a fireball of fantastic, unstoppable insanity. And I had a moment early on where I was like, this can't go on for this long. He's got to switch it up, do something. And like he's able to maintain it for a really long time in a way where I'm like really concerned for his voice, honestly. but
yeah.
But there comes like maybe the final quarter. There's like a couple of tracks where it feels a little wearing out its welcome. But then in the late period, we get that love song for cigarettes. So I'm just like, well, was it that bad? I don't know. He seems like he's still got. So it's like there's a quick couple little mini run where I feel like the ball gets kind of dropped. Just in terms of like, I just don't think what he's saying is as compelling as what he's saying before. But it kind of becomes a thing where it's like, you have to go down eventually at some point, like you can't.
Oh, yeah.
Like the Dutch response, God of Foss, Waterfall of Gods, It Could Be Worse. All of those, I remember just those tracks in particular passing me by and feeling like nothing stuck with me, nothing hooked in to me in the same way that there was always like a whole, phrase of lyrics that would just hook me in and be like, what in the fuck is happening, Yeah.
Right.
But, for the most part, I think it's just an insanely solid effort and a very singular voice of this guy.
Group vocal intro of Burn Barrel and the opening lyrics. Passion's not enough to save the world, so fuck it. Do you want to buy some drugs instead? It's such a great fucking lyric to open the album on. The short, somber dirge of Jack Ketch. Headrush in Centralia is a personal favorite of mine. It's very catchy, upbeat, sing-along kind of song at the chorus. And deep inside the earth, a fire grows where there used to be a mine. The people left it to devour the road, and there's enough coal down there burning. Oh, it's never gonna die.
And the tone! Like the vocal fry
yes.
is so intense. It's like, Jesus.
It's sometimes abstract. It doesn't always make sense exactly what he's describing, but sometimes the pictures can be so, like this one, where they left it to devour the road, and it's just, this is a fire that's never gonna go out.
There's something like the color of his voice mixed with the lyrics just like hits you in a certain way. Like that one part where he says, "There's a warmth that only bodies needs you will find," or something like that, where it's just like, it's like, there's a warmth that only bodies needs you will find. Like, and the way his vocals just slab on top of you at that moment, it's just like, there's something that just visceral hits you, Yeah.
I was listening to a later album of his today because I just got in a fucking mood and I just wanted to hear all this stuff again. And there's a lyric to a song, and I don't even think it was a song he wrote. I think it was a cover. It was just this love song, but the lyric was like, I want to stay with you and watch each other's bodies fall apart. Like, that's such a weird way of describing, like, growing old with someone. It's just like, we're just gonna watch each other's bodies fall apart. Like, holy shit, Jesus.
It's the thing where it's like, but I still want to do it, Like,
it's an unavoidable aspect of it, Catching the moon in a mason jar, there's a man in the tree who's been whispering to me about visions only he and I could see. Hide my dim little corpse, I'm a leper of sorts, distorted, deformed like an armadillo, torn by the coyotes. It ends with this, like, a really short, high-pitched squeal, and then just a bunch of dogs barking. So if you have a dog at home, it's probably gonna piss him off. Kildare of Wyoming. The next time summer comes, that bitch will be brutal, and I'll be sweating out my stomach into my hand. It's either that or the death camps, where they sing praise to the winds and the rains and the thunderer. Their worship will make them relentless, devouring them like a famine, then somehow shitting a kiss.
Yeah, what?
I don't
it's like,
know.
It's like I feel what he's saying, but I don't know what he's saying. Like,
yeah, it's like, I thought I knew, but I don't know. I also wrote down that it's incredible how some songs of his will have piano and organ that somehow make a song sound hopeful and cheery when it's absolutely not that.
Yeah.
Like, the picture is so grim.
Feeling.
Fucking Faith Helt. Very short verse, but the rest of the instrumental is so fucking good. The horns and the keyboard heavy half before it gives way to a much calmer piano and woodblock sounding segment. only for it to come back in as haunting as before, even slower than before. The da-na-na, da-na-na, da-da. It's like, oh god, so unsettling.
This was one of the ones that I felt a little like they were letting off the gas pedal a little bit. You know, it has a nice, very plaintive, simple and sweet feel halfway through it. You know, then it really crunches into that. I couldn't help but feel this way. It sounded like that Zydeco '90s video game Nickelodeon genre of music. You know what I mean? It kind of sounded like that. You know what I'm trying to say?
I don't think so. I'm not quite sure.
There's like that. It sounds like a fake accordion, that type of music. You know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like it kind of had that feeling to it.
Yeah, I think it's maybe a melodica is used on the album a lot. I kept trying to place what instruments were being played.
Yeah. Because I feel like I've heard it on They Might Be Giants albums as well. You know?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I think in They Might Be Giants it might have actually been an accordion. With Grandpa Number 2.
Oh man.
Boy. This was okay. I was in the car with Dylan way back in the day. This was like 2010. And we were going to get some food, and he was playing this CD in the car. And this was the one I remember most. Just because, and I just want to read this along to the people listening at home, and it will not be the same. This is on Spotify, folks. I highly recommend y'all need to check this album out. Oh, but that's not God. That's just your will, despite what they'll preach to me at your funeral. I'm not a fucking 2-year-old anymore. And then it comes back even harder.
I'm not a fucking 2-year-old!
Someday you'll be dying, and so will I, and so will everyone. There's no two ways around it, and there will be no exceptions. Just live until you don't. Push it until it won't. And if there's no God, the only sad part's that I'll never see you again. I'm not a fucking 2-year-old. Everything ends. Like, this is the biggest fucking bummer. This fucking song. It's like, god damn you, Andy. Salt, Blood, and Gasoline. Very creepy intro. It's just got... There's like these songs on here that have these random ass samples. And I think with this one, it's like, if you're in the vicinity of the bomb, you will die.
Yeah.
Instantly.
It's like, okay.
And then it just kicks in the they're crawling out of my face. They're crawling out of my face.
Yeah.
You do not expect that. Like, it does not ready you for that. Deity, I had quotes. Samples were taken from unmarked thrift store tapes. And it's just samples over a violin and percussion instrumental. And the part I have quoted is from, you're never gonna guess, Paul Reiser's Couplehood. I realized, I guess I'm done. This is who I am. I'm 5'10", 9.5 shoe forever. You know, I'd love to resume the hostilities and slaughter your village, but unfortunately, I just noticed I have the phone guy coming the 27th. So that's no good. Just it sounds so creepy in the context of the song.
Well, what? Because as I was listening to it, like, it sounds like, what it sounds like is like they're interviewing people from the 50s, like taking LSD for the first time, and they're just like deconstructing their own lives. There's like people who worked in government jobs, and they're like, you know, we think people from the 50s sound like this, but then when we actually hear them talking, they're like, this is all fucked up, man. All we're doing is destroying society, man. It's all fucked.
Something about the music that Andy puts these clips to that are totally innocuous. And yeah, it's just a book on tape about Paul Reiser writing about how to have a successful marriage or whatever. But it sounds so much more sinister put to the music. And then it just ends with Andy not even singing, but just speaking. I want to live and expand and create and build and leave my mark and affect the world with my presence. And then I look down at the earth from a plane, and I just want everyone like me to die. Male Calico... it's like a jaunty acoustic instrumental with the quotes, me and my friends, we got some angels we don't talk about, down to the fire pit to sort them out, rivers of gold laced with traces of some illegal substance, doesn't matter which one or what it's called, we've done them all. Then and I'll walk until there's nothing left to see, And should my weary heart stop beating tomorrow, well, take a drink from my daddy's bottle and set him free. He has 2 Instagrams. One is like pictures, and if you haven't looked up what Andy the Doorbum looks like yet, RC, do a Google search for Andy and just look at
I've just seen this album cover and just be like, what? Who?
There are some pictures that just look like an unassuming bearded dude, and then there's other pictures of him in his more elaborate stage attire, and it's just antlers and big masks and stilts. Just some really creepy imagery.
Yeah, alright, this is about the level that I...
Oh, coffin varnish, okay. Oh, amphetamines, how have you been? Oh, narcotics, how the time passes. It's all coming back, hallucinogen. I'll marry the first girl that spits in my face when I say that she looks like a bottle. I'm addicted to plenty things, and they all somehow involve consumption. Bring the SWAT team to take me away, 'cause I am well versed in the cost of my freedom. And the exit ramp towns, they see the whole thing. Every last one of us crammed in our cars, running from something and driving away. Kiss of a human crocodile. It's so fucking unsettling. Open the medicine chest and empty out your rations. Sometimes it takes double the dose to keep from feeling awkward. Then it goes, the 15-year-old maid is pregnant. He promised her he'd marry her if his wife somehow died. As her doctor carried out her abortion as she sat there still, his wife became conveniently ill. Her mother's coming to nurse her to health. You better make her sick too. And before long, they'll both be dead. You'll have the coffin unscrewed so you can kiss the lips you poisoned. Jesus! Slobbery Jaws. I love the instrumental of that one.
Was just so, like, the lyrics were just the title, Slobbery Jaws, and then you took your fingers out of my mouth and it made me feel lost without it. It's just like,
yeah. Hanging around like my tonsils, get your arm out of my breathing hole or else I'll have to eat around it. Never again will I choose your soft skin over the hunger that's quivering my jaws. I promise. Ooh! So fucking creepy.
Like, it gives you that little ball under your chin every time you kind of hear this. It's like,
yeah. Now, I am very happy to hear you shout out Love Song for Cigarettes specifically, because this is a personal fave. This is a love song for cigarettes because I need them. Addictions are better than mouths to feed, so I'll be the one to feed them. And the man standing in your living room warned me not to say this, but my head's been fucked up for me too long to find it within myself to be embarrassed. And I must admit I blushed a bit at something so fucking hopeless, though it may have been the saddest thing that he had ever witnessed. And just the story that the turns that this song takes, I almost don't want to spoil it. It's just so, like, because by the end of it, you're like, oh, Jesus.
I mean, I'll say this, like, the first thing, when he says about cigarettes, I was like, oh, well, that explains a lot about the voice.
Yeah.
And then just the way, I think the final line is like, it's time for men to learn that love and addictions can conquer anything. It's just like, oof.
There's no stopping it. Yeah. Trepanation was a really strong one, I thought, too. I mean, I fucking love every song on this thing.
By the time I got to this track, I was like, this is a Life is Strange core type music, you know what I mean? But I will say, this one didn't grab me as much. And again, I think it might have just been an overload thing where it was like, you come to a certain point where you're like, okay, everything up to this point was just so good. Anything that's a kind of ease up is just not gonna feel like a step down regardless. You know what I mean? Like, if I heard this in the wild, this would probably be a good single. And then you come to the album and you'd be like, oh, now I recognize that song. But now that's just kind of like the song that's later on, you know, after I got duped into this emotional roller coaster.
Now, how about the super fucking catchy Albert?
Albert. Oh man. Okay. So this one was another one that was also really crazy, but it was just like the dynamics where it would randomly switch up to like Mary, Mary, Mother of Confusion.
Oh yeah, it's like right when he says that, the fucking church organs come in.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, we fucking switch it.
Just a new color just comes out of nowhere. Like, yeah.
And it's called Albert because the first words are Albert, Albert, and it sounds like Albert, so he just named the song Albert.
What? What is he actually saying?
Albert, Owlbird, Owlbird, why are you staring in the window?
So, wait, so he's messing with...
Yeah, he just named the song Albert, but it's really Owlbird.
What? No one's gonna know what...
You gotta read along in the Genius or
with
the
me.
Bandcamp.
It's like, why did you name it that? Oh, no, it's not actually that. It's what people would mishear it as. You know, we're going to be talking a lot about mishearing things, especially as we get to the second album.
Yeah. Overall, I give this album a 5.
I got 5 on it.
I give it a 4.5. I feel like there's just, like I said, it's so much that then when the little points that kind of drag down a little bit, it feels like such a step down, like from such a mighty place. And it's like the goodness of the tracks starts to work against it, honestly. You know what I mean?
I didn't realize that we also both picked albums that are like almost as long as each other. Like they're both just over an hour.
Yeah.
You said this was the first album you ever got. Mm-hmm. When you got home and you listened to this album for the first time, I need to hear your thoughts and reaction to this intro. Because this intro is fucking unhinged. And it's honestly, like 5 minutes.
Yes, and honestly, I gotta say, upon like going back to it, I think this has got to be the best intro to an album of all fucking time. This is exactly what you're going to get, album. Like, nothing could prepare you more for what you're going to get in terms of the temperament, the humor, the insanity, the production quality.
Yeah. I just need to break this down, because it does have 3 parts. The first part...
That's indeed.
The first part is the lengthy introduction. Someone else introducing ODB, but it's him.
Totally not him, yeah.
But he's introducing himself, and he's getting his name wrong, and everything.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like, coming back to an album like this, having that movie, you're like, okay, so this guy's doing all this build-up from all houses to all towns, from the moon to Pluto, back down to Earth. Like, you know, you love him, I love him. Ladies and gentlemen, your friend and my friend, the old dirty dog. I mean, the old dirty dog. Like, what? Like, how does this guy who apparently knows this man from here?
Wait, hold on.
Like, that's such a weird extra comedic beat.
So then, after the lengthy intro, ODB is finally here, and he's gonna tell us, and he's gonna sing a tearful song about getting gonorrhea, but only for about a minute or two.
Of rap.
Because then after about a minute, he's gonna go, nah, I'm just playing. You're gonna love this album, though.
Like, this is possibly the most fourth wall breaking hip-hop has ever gotten. Like, just to have it at the end be like, no, just play around with you. Yo, dude, you gotta check out this album because it's bang. Like,
Yeah.
Like, he's advertising to you the album at the beginning of it, like, dude, this is gonna be fun, y'all.
It's like, I have it. I know. You trying to get me to buy it? I did already.
Oh my god. And then just, how he starts this whole, like, you know, I feel like the 90s, and it's interesting because it's 1995, so this really is, like, the big crossover between the sort of 2D of the, you know, early 90s into the 3D of the mid to late 90s, right? Because there's, like, still that little bit of, like, you know, I mean, clearly this dude was, like, drunk a lot, so they kind of had to cobble together a bunch of, like, his most sober recordings, which was, you know, they didn't have that many lyrics, so they were like, oh, oh, let's do some old routines you can clearly hear that are like, oh, that sounds like it's from a little earlier in the decade, but you're kind of rocking with it because it's still early 90s. We kind of still doing, stuff, rhymes like this a little bit, right? You know what I mean? So there's this interesting, like, still attachment to the early 90s, but because it's Old Dirty Bastard, there's this weird, very specific break from it in a way that it's just like, this feels like it's from the early 90s, but it's so not that because it's Old Dirty Bastard, because he like flips his flow in such weird ways that like nobody was doing at this time. And the more and more we got into this album, the more I was just like, I was actually starting to really appreciate, like, I thought this was going to be a thing where I was going to be like, just, kind of covering my head the whole time and be like, oh, you gotta have to give him that, it's ODB, I don't know. But honestly, I gotta say, the emotionally weird high points that this album gets actually kind of has me rooting for it. Like, I'm not feeling ashamed in a way. I gotta say, I'm wearing the weirdness badge with honor when it comes to this album, because, oh my god, it just goes for it so much in a way that, like, I gotta say, I didn't even appreciate as much as a weird kid listening to this fucking album. You know what I mean? But yeah, with that intro, it's just so insane. Like, yeah, having him, like, it's such a, letting this guy's freak flag fly in terms of, I mean, this is probably the most coordinated they get in terms of this album, right? Of like, hey, let's actually set up this whole thing where you talk, and then Rizzy, you're gonna be in the background rooting me on, like, yo, dirty motherfucker, go. And yeah, him doing the introduction, which is like, it's basically, the over the topness of like a Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, Chronic record, but turned up to 11 because it's ODB, talking about like, oh yeah, I got burnt for gonorrhea. Well, it was actually 2 times if you really look at it, because it was this other chick, and I love the girl, but I had to cut the bitch off. Yeah, the bitch died. I killed the bitch.
I killed her.
Something along paving. Like, it just gets more and more intense. Like, every sentence, you're like, wait, what's happening? Wait, wait, what's going on?
I was also kind of picturing. I was picturing the audience in attendance, and them all just kind of hanging on every word. And then it's just like,
he's like the Elvis of the day, and everyone's like waiting for the song, and then they're hearing like, wait, my favorite artist has double gonorrhea. What's happening?
We didn't leave it in. We were talking about it after the recording, but that little Rascal short where Alfalfa's like, hey, I don't want to croon anymore. I want to sing opera. So he sells out this opera house, and there's billboards all over town. It's like, go, like, the wonderful Alfalfa, the amazing Alfalfa. And he's just there on stage alone. I'm the barber of Seville. Boom! And people immediately just start pelting him with vegetables. Like, full heads of cabbage are bouncing off his fucking head. That's what I picture. It's just like people like, ODB, ODB, yeah! And then it's just like, hey, I'm gonna sing you a song I wrote. Actually, Blowfly wrote it.
Yeah, someone else wrote it,
but then he says, this is a song I wrote. Like, you just said it wasn't you! I didn't forget that. You just said that.
And you hear the paper unfurling.
And it's just, the audience kind of like simmers. You don't hear them anymore. And like they're all just watching him unfurl the paper out of his pocket. Like, oh, this is gonna be good. The bitch died. I killed her.
And you know what's crazy about it? It's like, I never, as a kid, I did not know the first time ever I saw your face. So I'm just listening to this and going like, what is this song he's singing?
I can't say I've ever heard it either.
But now as an adult, I'm hearing, the original song. The first time ever I saw your face, I felt the earth tremble or something, da-da-da. Like, it goes a completely different way. But then to hear, like, him, messing up the words the way he does. So it was like I was able to appreciate it double times over coming back to it now. Of, like, the weirdness hearing it the first time. And then also having the, oh, I know what this is a reference to now. Because I remember Erykah Badu and the Flaming Lips, I think they recently did a cover of it a couple of years ago. It was like this whole
shit
video, yeah. Of the original song. But yeah, and so like, yeah, having that, what was that, Because during that whole time, that's right. What happens at the beginning? He's like, I don't usually cry, but, and then you hear like it sounds like the piano dude in the background is starting to play something like, oh, should I play along? And then it's like, is this gonna be a bit too much? So he stops, and then ODB's like, you can play that shit if you want to.
Oh yeah, it stops and starts. You can play that if you want to.
That was so good. Like it actually wasn't planned. Like he's standing up in church or something like that. Like this is his confession.
Now, look, I will say this though. I wish that any other song on this album was half as like had this
ambitious
personality
and insane and just throwing it to the wall. Yeah.
Because this is the highlight in like getting a glimpse as to his personality and his sense of humor. Because I will say this album is not without its bangers, but it's really underwhelming in a lot of it.
Yeah. And it annoys me because like we got to get right into it. Shimmy shimmy ya. As I like listened to the song, and it was always so disappointing that they never used the video version. You've seen the music video, right, for the song?
No.
In the music video, they like after the first verse, which is like it's a nothing, just kind of silly shimmy shimmy ya, just saying nothing sort of verse. But then like they kind of flip the verse backwards right before the second verse starts, and then a new verse starts where he says like new shit that sounds like way more cooler and in your face. Sounds like he's like right up on the mic and shit. And so like it's way cooler to watch the music video, and then yeah, so the original Shimmy Shimmy Ya, which only repeats one verse, I give it a 2 out of 5 because it's like it's just so like nothing happening. Yeah, like I think it's like the worst track on this album because it's just like this is so nothing. You know what I mean? Like it's so not giving you anything of what his real personality is. I think when you have the flip backwards thing and then you have the second verse where he goes a little crazier, that's some personality, that's something happening. I understand the idea of like, oh, you know, hey, this is the most clean, you know, ready for radio song we could get out of him. This is the most, you know, Method Man song we could get out of him. I get it, but it's just like, then go all the way with it. Have the fun flip reverse chorus, reverse verse. You know what I'm saying? Like, actually go all the way with it. And I'll say this much: the West Coast version. Have you seen that version? The music video for that, which for some fucking reason we can't find the uncensored version of. I've been trying so hard to find it, but you can't find it with E40 and MC8. I think, dude, it's fucking incredible with even more flipped up. Like, ooh, baby, I like it raw. Like that shit. I give that shit a 5 out of 5. If only that was on this fucking album. Like, oh my god, like the most milquetoast, not interesting version of this song is on this album. It is so fucking disappointing for that to be coming right after that incredible skit. It's just like an immediate drop down.
Because without having the frame of reference for the other versions, this is the only version I'd ever heard. I wasn't as disappointed in it, so I actually gave it a higher rating than you did there, but it's really just, it's got a cool minimal piano beat, and it's got the classic chorus that everyone fucking knows. But yeah, there's really just not much to it. And especially after following that intro, you need more heat than that.
If it was like a 1-2 with Baby Come On, I would maybe like if they just combined it as a track, I would maybe show it a little bit more love as they're doing an A-B, you know. If they maybe did like the verse repeats, you know, 2 times and then they just immediately go into this as like a thing, like I would kind of get that. And that's kind of what they're going for, because like, you know, Baby Come On, it does feel like it's just like one verse that just bleeds from what happens at the end of the track, but it feels like the end of that track just goes on for a little while, so it feels like we need a whole bunch of time to just kind of like play this out and have the little Richard Pryor sample and stuff. And, you know, again, like, I feel like RZA is trying to do a thing of like, okay, we can't get ODB for as much time as we can, so let's try to make sure that in the production we're reflecting the craziness and off the wallness of, you know, shit. You know, you're hearing little, you know, guitar shit in the background, like stuff that sounds like it's off the beat, but it's like just on the offbeat of shit in a way that feels really, really weird and cool. You know what I mean? And so like, in that way, the production kind of like works with ODB in a way for these first couple of tracks, but it still feels like there's something detracted. Like, Baby Come On is probably the most clear-eyed you'll get of ODB on this album, and even I've got to say, like, it's slightly better lyrically than Shimmy Shimmy Ya, but it's still not like that great. You know what I mean? It's still not like, it doesn't hit what Brooklyn Zoo hits. You know what I mean? Like,
first 2 songs are really just like half of songs. Like, you really do
Yeah.
need them together to make one solid song. Yeah, because
Yeah.
between them, there really isn't a lot going on.
There's like the mini bridge in the middle of the Baby Come On, and then it's kind of like, why was that even there to split up what was happening? Like,
I did have to point out this one part in Baby Come On because it just kind of made me laugh the way he was pronouncing these words. He goes, hip hop to meh is like a place to meh. My specialty to
he's
meh.
burping these lyrics.
To you is MC. He's like, why are you doing that? I thought that was kind of funny.
The thing that really becomes the highlight of this is like his emphasis, you know, his like the way he says it, because it's interesting, like the way people rapped at that point, you know, it was either you were trying to lock into the flow, especially in the late 80s, early 90s, or you were trying to speak more just like in a talking, expressive way, like a person naturally talking. But he doesn't rap like a person who's naturally talking. He raps like a person who's like putting really specific emphasis on shit, you know what I mean? Like that you wouldn't normally do, you know?
I did also like that there was the ending part where it holds on the word baby, but it just kind of becomes a noise for after a while. It's like baby, and it just holds for so long. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, you hear like glass breaking in the background that also kind of sounds like it's part of the beat too. You know what I mean? It's like little things like, so it's like, you want to give it up for like the little cool atmospheric things that really makes way for like, you know, what his weirdness and, you know, arithmetic strangeness is. But like you said, yeah, it still feels like a ultimate disservice, especially compared to what we get the fucking heights of Brooklyn Zoo. Jesus Christ. Like, I still... Man, like, I've come back to this song, you know, so many times, and I remember, you know, when you listen to something so many times, you kind of feel like, is this song really that great? And then you come back to it, it's like, no, especially for the time, like, this song is madness. Like, it's so, like, not what anyone else was doing at the time. The jagged rhyme scheme, where he talks about, I'm the one man on me son. I never been tooken out. I keep MCs looking out. Like, the rhyme is like the last two measures of the bar. You know what I mean? Like, that's so weird to do it like that. And then he kind of keeps flowing like that in this weird way as things go on. And then, you know, of course, the way he speaks that's so, like, you know, slightly garbled in a way where you're like, did he say this lyric or did he say that lyric? In a way where it's like, that kind of becomes its own choose your own adventure. Like, well, did he say it this way? Did he say that? Because I remember always hearing this lyric as, I drop science like girls be dropping babies, like just in general. But apparently it's, I drop science like Cosby dropping babies. Which makes it even more insane. Because that man did have a lot of kids on that show.
And he's also in the news today. Oh boy.
Precisely. Enough to make you go crazy.
I had to take note of, because this I think is a credit to ODB. Just the lyrics, this type of pain you couldn't even kill with Midol. Fuck around, get sprayed with Lysol, in your face like a can of mace. That's such a bad lyric. Like, it's such
a basic, bar,
but because of how he delivers it, he makes it sound cool. Like,
and yes, that's what it's all about, like, personality, right? In your face like a can of mace, baby. Is it burning? Well, fucking now you're learning. Like, you know, you get it. You know what I mean? Like,
and look, we've said this on this show, so let this be an example. Because we've talked about people who send us their own individual privately recorded albums, right? And we're like, these are good, like, these are fine lyrics, but the delivery is so crucial. Like, good lyrics instantly become whatever if they're not delivered right. But you can even make the wackest shit sound good if you have the right delivery. And this is a prime example of that.
Yeah, and it's like delivered over this beat that has this, it's like it's rotating, but it's clearly like cracked and weirdly out of, like, you know, it's not the right, it's not exactly on the one of one in the beat, you know, dun 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 dun. Like, there's something that sounds just off and you can't quite place it, but the beat drops just at the right point, so you're like, okay, but it still works, so, you know what I mean? So there's this weird out of time whirlingness to it, you know what I mean? And you can even hear in the background the little as he's rapping. It's just so weird, but exactly perfect for what it needs to be. And like, just these lines, like, because like I said, there will be these sort of basic bars, but delivered just in a way where, like, because of how jagged and just bumping right off the track it sounds, like, it hits your ear right, you know? So it actually sounds, it doesn't sound stock. It doesn't sound like just someone's, because, you know, every now and then, of course, we all say stock phrases, but if you deliver it in a fun way, like, oh, son, now you're learning, you know what I mean? Like, it comes off funny, you know what I mean? So, yeah, and then he'll say lines where he'll just be like, hey, son, I keep planets in orbit, which is like, who the fuck would have thought to say that? I keep planets in orbit? Like, what? Like, I keep planets in orbit while I be coming with deeper and more shit. Like, and yeah, this is one of those things where it's like, I wish this whole album was as focused as this, with just these last seen and heard, no one knows, you forget, niggas be quiet as kept, now you knew nothing before you knew a whole fucking lot, you ass don't want to get shot. Like, that's so now you know nothing, well, before you knew a whole fucking lot.
Those are the moments, yeah, those are the standout moments.
Where he jumps off of the beat in a way that's like, oh, he's really just like talking to you for a second. This isn't just flowing. He's like, no, this man will grab you by your collar. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
I have a quote like that in, to me, the first 5 on the album. Not Hippa to the Hoppa. Skipping that one for a second.
Yeah, no.
Like, it's okay. But Rawhide, an example of how his delivery, how he goes, I want to see blood, whether it's period blood or busting your fucking face. Some blood! Like, he yells blood. It's like, oh, Jesus.
Like, it's that believability factor. This man actually sounds like, you know, a caged animal unleashed that they're just holding back.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah.
I also wanted to quote this one part, only because it's relevant to me this week. He goes, wicked women putting period blood in stew. Don't that make it witch's brew? Okay. I was listening to an old radio show from 2002 while I was at work, because that's just what I do these days, right? And specific. A woman calls up that she practices Santeria, which someone calls up and speculates that it's not Santeria, but it's more like black magic. But she says that she made her husband fall in love with her by putting period blood in his coffee. So this is a thing.
Oh.
I was unaware that this was a thing. So if I didn't listen to that radio show and I would have came across this lyric, I would have known what the fuck ODB was talking about. But luckily, I had that knowledge going in. And it's very weird. There was a whole segment of the show.
That weird connection.
A regular going off brand coincidence that we have all the fucking time. That she says, oh yeah, I did this, and he's like infatuated with me now, and it's because of the period blood. But don't think I didn't pay a price for it.
A woman can make a man fall in love. What a woman needs to do is, during that time of the month, she needs to collect some of her flow.
Okay.
I'm trying to be careful.
Now, so far I think you're fine. Okay. So we're collecting the flow.
We collect the flow. You let the flow congeal or solid or get solidified or...
Yeah.
Make it okay, you make it a solid form. You pour this into a man's coffee or some kind of hot liquid that he's going to ingest.
Okay.
The man will be bound to you forever.
No, you
can't know about it. If he knows about it, it doesn't work.
If he knows about it, you go to jail.
Now, why wait for it to be solid? Can't you just squat over it?
I'm sure. I guess you can. I've never squatted over something.
All right, how much has to go in there?
Honestly, I was told that when you do it, as much as you possibly can without it being noticed.
So you actually did this to get yourself a man?
We do desperate things in desperate times, I suppose.
Huh. And so he is just stuck on you, though, huh?
Yeah, and he wasn't when we first met.
That's interesting. Now, do you worry that you're going to have to pay back somewhere along the way?
I did pay back.
In what way?
That I don't feel comfortable in saying.
You burn a lip trying to do it?
Niggas want to get too close to the utmost, but I got sacks out of Jack. Anyway, goes, introduce, yo, fuck that nigga's name. Like, just, I love this, again, these moments. Like,
introduce it, fuck that.
Yeah, fuck that, guys.
That's the type of shit. I wish that was all throughout this fucking album, because those are my favorite parts.
Yeah. But, and then Hippa to the Hoppa is, Oh man, it's so like even as someone who's listened to this album a bunch, so I've heard like, oh yeah, the sort of piano loop of it all that sounds kind of like mid '90s, maybe a little dated. Like, no, your ears do not deceive you. Hippa to the Hoppa is definitely lesser than Brooklyn Zoo. You know, all of this is well worn to my ears, and this has always sounded like the not as cool version. The only thing I give it props for is just this is him like doing the dirty, grimy rapper up like just as much as possible with the punchlines, you know. This shit I'm dropping is stinking up your area, so I shoot it through like a messenger carrier. I keep my breath smelling like shit so I can get funky. It's just like willing to degrade his own character just for the sake of the goofy punchline. You know, like that's what ODB kind of is on a track like this. But even so, like I kind of wish there was more happening, you know what I mean, in terms of like it really being a wild out track, especially compared to what we just heard, you know?
I kind of wish that this album was credited to ODB and RZA, because we've talked a lot about the production, and I think a lot of times the production is kind of like by facto the star of the show sometimes.
Yeah,
like they definitely share an equal stage, I think, sometimes.
Definitely, especially on something like this, yeah.
But RZA for sure, especially like you mentioned Hippa da Hoppa, he fucking loves his goddamn piano loops. Like they would have shimmy shimmy ya, baby come on.
Yeah.
You got a fucking simple ass piano loop on like every song. But the ODB and RZA verses on Rawhide, I think of like what made this the best song on the album so far.
RZA's not on. He's not on Rawhide. It's Method Man and Raekwon, the chef, who's on Rawhide.
Oh shit! Okay, what the fuck was I looking at? Okay,
that's the second verse with the check the shit is like a shotty while she running like John Gotti, colliding on the track like Jenny Waddy. That one.
I think so. I'll explain this. I got lazy again, right? And for the first half of the album, I was listening to the album on Spotify, so it didn't tell me who was doing the verses.
They won't tell you, on some of these fucking track listings.
At some point, someone shouted out RZA, so I think that might have been why I just automatically thought it was him. But yeah, you're right. I probably should have known better.
Method Man does the hook. Yeah. Shoot him in, rule him in, shoot him out, rule him out, stick him
okay.
Up. Hard. Yeah.
I thought ODB was doing that. I wasn't sure.
No.
I do fucking love that chorus, though.
Dude, it is so cool. Like, first of all, like, ODB and Method Man don't have that many songs together, which is so crazy, because they're, like, the most fun members of the group, and you'd think they would get them together more.
Yeah.
But the only thing there is, I think for the most part, is this track, which doesn't even really feel like it, because it's kind of split up by Raekwon's verse, and, you know, the Night Train or whatever track at the end, which is, like, kind of, it's like half a track, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the best that I feel like happens is maybe the Dirty Meth song that comes later on, and I think it was actually posthumously, but it's like the most lyrical both of them were at the same time on a track. But yeah, it does feel weird that the most energetic dudes never got like a real superstar shining like hit song track together. It's like, yeah, their energies, I guess, were just too different for it to ever really come true.
And you only get the one Ghostface moment, like...
Yeah, going to Rawhide, this verse, so getting to the point, like, yeah, this verse I feel is the most of, you know, I feel like he's like the insane clown posse of the group, where it's like, he's not the most lyrically impressive, but by nature of like the craziness and the insanity and personality and offbeatness of how it catches you with what he's saying is what makes the verse, right? Like, like, yeah, this is one of those verses where, like, tone is what makes the verse, ultimately. You know, because he says, he'll say shit that's literally not rhyming, just saying the same verse again, but because what he's saying is so impactful, that's what hits you. Because he says, like, you know, I'm tired of sitting on my fucking ass. Nigga, I know, y'all run around with mad fucking cash. Who the fuck wants to be an MC if you can't get paid to be a fucking MC? Like, you know, and then I came out my mama pussy, I'm on welfare, 26 years old, still on welfare.
That's a great part. Yep.
Yeah. So I gotta get paid fully, whether it's truthfully or untruthfully. Like, what? That's like, but it just goes, like, the way he keeps playing on the idea of I'm saying the same. Like, I feel like I've heard so many rappers do it's like I'm saying the same word, right? But they'll do that with, like, oh, it's like I'm going left, but then you gonna get left, and you gonna get hit with this rights and lefts. But then I'm like on your left, like, you know, it's like they're almost hitting the idea of playing with, you know, different meanings of a word, you know what I mean? But I feel like he's someone who really like hits you with it because you hear the different intention of the first phrase versus the second phrase. You know, it doesn't just sound like, no, that's just basically the same, you just use the same meaning. You know what I mean? You know what I'm trying to say, right? We'll hear rappers do that thing where there's like, no, I get you're trying to play on a meaning of a thing, but you didn't really do it that well, you know? But like with someone going like, I came with my pussy on welfare. Yeah, I'm 26 years old. Yeah, and I'm still on welfare. It's just like, yeah, my life has not improved in 2.5 decades. Like, that's what that intention of the repetition is. You know what I mean? And then I gotta get paid fully, whether it's truthfully or truth. Like, that's brilliant. You know, like I use the same suffix. I use the same suffix, but for a different end in each part. Like, that's the brilliance of it. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's all about emphasis, you know? So that's what I mean when I say that sort of like, you know, you can break the rules of, you can rhyme a word with the same word, but there has to be a point to it. It can't just be like, oh, wow, yeah, I could have done that. I could have just, you know, not rhymed it. Because, like, the point of a rhyme is that there's an expectation, right? Like, oh, what are you going to say that rhymes with that? And then, oh, you rhymed the same word. Oh, but you meant it that time when you said it. You know what I mean? Like... Yeah, and it's just dumb when it's like, I don't know, oh, I said there, but then I said there, but then I said there. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you get a lot of times with fucking rap songs where it's just like, that's the most basic version of what you could do with that, you know?
Now, fucking Damage.
Oh, man, okay. And this is like, it's so weird how this album feels like it's like hanging on like a thread of how all of this is being put together. Like, you can hear the seams of how grimy and like craggly and cracked that this track is, but it's the jaggedness works so perfectly, I feel like, for this type of battle track. Like, this is the only way the Genius and Old Dirty Bastard could be on a track together, because again, their energies are just so different. It becomes this thing of like, yeah, how do you work, you know, ODB, the madman, with Genius, who's kind of like more measured, you know? And the way they do it is kind of like this weird, like, next level Run DMC. Like, I don't even think Beastie Boys was doing shit this complex with how they like bounce off of each other's rhymes. You know what I mean? Where it's like, it doesn't really feel like one person to the next person's verse. It just feels like one person goes and then another person gloms on, and then they'll just like bounce a couple of words and then it bounces to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I had to quote that one part. My main source is like a friendly game of stickball. As you step up to the Batman, I play Riddler. And you try to do me a rhyme, then I'll change to Hitler. Go out like a Nazi, you'll be wishing your fucking ass stayed at home and played Yahtzee. Or watching Happy Days, sweating Poxy with Ralphie and Richie Cunningham, Joni and Chachi. Like, it seriously just sounds like they both recorded the song, and then someone just took both recordings and just tried to make something of it, like editing it. Because there's parts where you hear a line and it cuts off so abruptly, and then the other one takes over, that it just sounds really rough, but not in a super distracting way.
No, because something said in the pleasure. It's not a Newport, but it's still alive and pleasure. Come on, don't be silly. It's back silly. But you could tell that was like a routine they had or something like that, you know, to bounce off it like that. But yeah, they just like did like, okay, I'll just do a take, and then you'll do a take, and the idea is that it'll just go off like that.
Now,
but then they'll be like, what was it? I feel like, because it's like we have to savor these moments, because these are honestly the most lyrical moments that ODB gets. And but what was that one part where he says, oh yeah, where it's like, you know, it's like, it's a battle rap, but it also like deviates into these weird scenarios where it's like, I'm so much of a badass that like MCs start to vanish. I stepped up to a jet black kid, he started speaking Spanish. Yo, he wasn't from Panama. I asked him how he got so dark. The nigga said, Son Tanama. Like, what? Son Tanama? What is that? Is that like an ad or something? And then he responded so fast he made me laugh. Then I'm scared as hell. It's such this like weirdly over the top thing. It's like, you know, it's like this, it's the early 90s comedy rap, like, you know, Saturday morning cartoon rapper sort of thing, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You know, no one actually believes that this is actually like a gangster rapper doing this shit, you know? Like,
the next stretch is pretty weak.
Yeah, okay, so this song ends abruptly where he's like, I teach the truth to the youth. I say, hey youth, here's the truth. You better start wearing bulletproof. Arms up with a shield where you get trapped up just like children in the cornfield. And then it just like,
And then it
just
cuts
feels like
off, yeah.
Yeah, it feels like all the visuals just like got really close and just bumped up into your face, and then it just abruptly cuts to like these girls in the background like, yo, yeah, that guy's a cutie.
Oh,
and it's like,
God, that
now-
intro.
Oh,
But his disposition.
oh, we're into the sex
Fucking-
song.
Alright. Yeah, I gotta say, don't you know, the stomp and going down,
Oh man,
not
yeah.
great,
We had a real low point.
but fucking drunk game, sweet sugar pie, that could be the worst song on the album.
It is. It's one of those. It's like, how bad does it get, and does it get to the so bad it's good for you? That's what this stretch of the album kind of becomes. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I feel like don't you know doesn't necessarily get there, but
No.
I feel like drunk game sugar pie gets there for me.
No way. Okay. Don't you know and going down for me are just like kind of whatever. Like, don't you know, I just thought was kind of weak. The real nothing verse from Killer Priest, I don't know what that was even doing
Well,
there.
it's weird because like I think it's interesting how it's kind of like weirdly like how he's got like jumbles of rhymes that are kind of like bouncing off of each other. You know, Miracle named Chandra from way down yonder. Apple of my eye, had a snapple of surprise. Forgot the ketchup. That's when I pressed up. It's like he's doing this like AABB continual rhyme, but then like halfway through the verse, he he just wanders off the topic, describing the dad just slightly way too much. You notice
Yeah.
that? Like, where it's like, I was like, oh yeah, he's talking about the chicken. Oh, gotta keep an eye out for the old man who's and then let me talk about how he did the stomp with his hillbilly friend and drank moonshine. It's like, why are you talking about him so much? Like, talk about the chick, talk about her.
Yeah, so I was got a little confused there. And then just how ODB, it's such a whack fucking verse. ODB comes back after Killer Priest's verse. And he just talks about a teacher who's like randomly starts talking about oral sex, and he's like, whoa, what kind of class is this?
Get in your class, walk to your chair. Papa's all you see, and then occasionally stare at the teacher or students who were clocking you. Lean back at this girl who kept clocking you, and it's like, wait, you just said clocking you twice. Like that's not a good double rhyme. That's the exact same meaning. You know what I mean? And then it's like, stimulated from the sesame oil blood. Tell the girl, yo, girl, baby, you're the one I want. She doesn't respond, pretends to ignore. So you say to yourself, it be her cold and so mentally visualize. Like, what is he saying? Like, visualize the name on the board as how to buy pussy you cannot afford. Like, what is he talking about?
You cannot afford? Yeah.
It's like, is he saying visualize her name on the board as how to buy? Like, it's like in my brain as a kid, I remember being like, I'm seeing the visual of like, he's having a daydream, and it's like, you know, he's not paying attention to what the teacher's saying, so he's imagining, you know, it's like doing the dream warble effect, where it's like the teacher is actually, you know, pointing to the girl as in like a chalkboard painting, you know what I mean? It's like, here's the pussy that you can't get, and he's like pointing to the anatomy, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm trying to figure out. But then it's like, but it doesn't feel like that's what's actually being said. Visualize the aim on the board as how to buy pussy you cannot afford this girl. Like, like, is that what he's saying? Because it doesn't really feel like that's what he's saying. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and then the girl who was slim and trim whispered in a friend's ear quietly, I want him. I took out my books to write notes in my class, but I kept fantasizing my dick in that ass, so I turned around to arrange a date. Swinging episode, baby, number one's gotta say it. She popped her gum, cold twist of curl. I said, baby, how'd you feel? She said, sure. Then I said, sure, I just found my thrill. Where in the classroom? No, on Blueberry Hill. She, and then what is this part where he's like, she put her face on the desk? This is what but I was like, wait, are they having sex now? Wait, in the classroom? Is this a dream? Like, you know, like I'm just so trying to figure out where are we, you know?
So, it's very unfortunate, and like you said, it's badly written. So,
and the ending is so bad. Yeah.
He's talking about the oral sex, and the teacher's like, hey, let me show you. And he's like, he's trying to leave, which makes it the worst part. Because now
right. So
she's forcing herself on ODB. And she's blowing him in the classroom as he's trying to run away. And then ODB just comes over and says, part 2 coming up. Like, nah, man. You can keep that shit. I do not need to hear the rest of this. I do not care.
And what's so stupid about it is that it's like, it treats it as if like that's like the big punchline. Easy on my balls, they're fragile as eggs. But it's like okay, like it's such a grade school gross out gag. Like you came up with this line in 4th grade and you thought it was still dope because in 4th grade I said balls and I said they're like eggs. Oh, that's silly imagery. But it's like now you're an adult on a record label and that's what you're ending with. Like, like it's not a punchline, it's just a bizarre imagery to end on, like nothing feels like, oh, but then that happened, then I woke up with my nuts in my hand in my class, you know what I mean? Like, if there was just something that ended it, but then it's just kind of like, no, I said, be easy on my balls, we'll tell you more about it in part 2, like, what, you didn't end exactly on a fucking cliffhanger, like, and then the stomp, this is just a filler song. One. Yeah, like, the only thing notable here is the randomness of saying, have you ever in your long-legged life had a bald-headed bitch for your bald-headed wife? The rhymes where he's actually trying to write a rap will be like, that was something, that was so-so. But then he'll just say something that's really simple, and that will be like the best line, where he'll just be like, yeah, I come here to rectify Brooklyn Zoo, terrify, like, oh, I'm lyrical, I just, it's like, that was a nothing filler line. But then he'll just go, niggas want to get up and rap, man, fuck that! Like, that line is like, this could have been the whole song. You could have just started the song and be like, niggas want to get up and rap, man, fuck that, and then just had the instrumental, and that would have been a doper song, Yeah. And then Going Down, which is the most, probably, like, the most disjointed sounding song of them all. Like,
it's a fucking mess. This is the one that starts...
Yeah.
It starts with the noise and the fucking throat noise game we tried to do at the top, and he sounds like a fucking Last of Us clicker. And he's doing all this. Then there's a part where this woman is talking, like it's one half of a conversation.
His wife, by the way, his real wife.
Oh shit, okay.
And she's actually angry at him. Which explains a lot.
Over her talking to him, he's singing Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And I just was like, this is unlistenable. Like, what the fuck is happening? Oh, okay, I need to backtrack for just a second. When I switched from Spotify to Genius. So on Don't You Know, a fucking Jack Harlow moment here. The lyric reads, "Dear, quietly, I want him to know my boots."
What's the lyric?
I'm pretty sure it's knock.
Oh.
Knock my boots.
My boots.
But according to Spotify, it's know my boots. And then, on Going Down, I switched over to Genius because I was like, I need the actual lyrics. It says, "Boogie Down rocks, are you in the house? Are you in the house?" I'm pretty sure it's Boogie Down Bronx.
Yeah, it's Bronx. Yeah, get out of here.
Why is Genius wrong now, too? Someone verify these lyrics.
So, but let's get into the specific weirdness of Going Down, right? So, like, because, like, the first minute and a half of this track just feels like an early 90s rolling around town. It's got a sort of, like, dark beat, doom, doom, doom. It's like it's a sub wu-tang Clan, nothing to fuck with sort of beat happening there, Bah, 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 you hear a little bit of blaring. And, like, he kind of starts off with this old school rapping routine, I go by the unforgettable name of the man called UDG. And I'm like, all right, we're going 1986 with this. What's going on? You know what I mean? Like, this is, like, we're like a minute into the song, and it feels like nothing's happened. And then, like, it does this weird thing where it's like, he ends the verse where he's like, my name is known all over the world by the foxy ladies and the pretty girls. I go down in history as, the guy who's getting all the chicks and banging all the ladies. Ha ha ha. So, like, right after this line about, I'm getting all the pussy and all the chicks in the world, that's when his wife comes up and says, I ain't got no time for this motherfucking bullshit. You got kids at home. So it's like this weird fourth wall breaking thing of like, rappers are always saying, oh yeah, I'm getting all this pussy. And then his wife comes in, and I don't know what's happening, and I remember hearing something about how, like, there was an argument, and we just happened to have the recorder on, and so we're like, let's just keep that, because it sounded right. But it's so weird, because it's like, it's almost like she heard him saying that line, and was just like, what the fuck are you talking about, you fucking all these bitches?
Yeah, I think if that was played into that, or if that was what actually happened, That would
Right.
be kind of funny. And if he didn't start just randomly singing over it...
Yeah, because it doesn't
like,
make sense. Is he just ignoring her? Like, what is happening? Yeah.
Yeah, and with me not knowing that's his wife, that wouldn't even make sense. It just seemed like a woman is randomly mad.
Yeah. Then you get Drunk Game. Oh, Drunk Game. Sweet goodbye. Oh, I wish you were my ODB. Showing up all these rappers showing up Biz Marquee by showing them how it's done.
Oh, yeah.
When you want to sing for the ladies, that's right. No rappers, no, fuck that. We're going all vocals, baby.
I need to quote Genius's the description of it. It opens up by saying, a comical track which consists of ODB screaming and rambling like a drunkard. Oh, so really setting the track apart from the rest of the album in that way then, huh?
And what is this intro? It's like, yo, imagine this shit. If you like drunk as hell and you going into a fucking bar and shit and you stumbling over bitches and falling over everywhere, throwing up and shit. Yeah. Let's start the track. Come on. It's like, what? That wasn't. You didn't go anywhere. You were just. Imagine if you were stumbling into a bar drunk off your ass. All right, let's get into the love song. It's like, what? You didn't tie it together? I don't know. And then it's like, I want all y'all people to feel what I feel. See, my mama taught me this shit. And then in the background, you just hear, this fucking Invader Zim energy. It's like, and my daddy learned from my mama, which is good. Sweet goodbye. And it's like, what? How did we get here? I don't know how we got. We went through like 2.5 different scenarios of like, imagine someone being drunk, and then my mom and my dad taught me this, and it's fine, it's good. Anyway, baby, let me spit some game to you. Like, what? How did we get here? What's happening? And then he's just going off. He's just like, and there's no like ironic lyrics like earlier on the first track, you know, where it's like, oh, he's singing that lyric, but he's being ironic about what. No, it's just, sweet my girlie, oh my honey, you look so good to me. And then it's like, it kind of breaks down. We're just like, do you love me? Do you love me, girl? I know you love me. And it's like, and it just kind of starts falling up. Like, you think there's going to be some sort of like, oh, verse, chorus, structure, but then it's just kind of like, is he just talking to someone now? And then halfway through, he just goes on this ramble. He's like, yeah, you know, there's other groups that's better than me, like the Temptations. And it's like,
oh my God.
Yeah, we knew. And then it's like, oh, and Miss Jones and Mrs. Jones, and you know, it sounds like it legit sounds like he took the mic from someone at like a, you know, at a wedding or something like that. And he's like, don't feel disgraced, baby. No, I love you. Don't hide your face. And it's like, oh, there's so many people that we want to thank, like Diana Ross and Michael Jazzy Jackson. Like, he just sounds like this guy's just slowly falling asleep as he's just like interrupting a very important thing that, you know, people were hoping that no one would invite him to. If you look into the production of it, yeah, it was just like RZA and people in the studio just trying to like doing what they can with what they could to make it sound as presentable as a thing as possible. But yeah, that's basically what a lot of this was. And honestly, I don't think this is the worst of it. Like, because I think they do, like, there's just enough duct tape and gum, you know, stitching this together where I think it actually comes together on the other side as an actual, like, weird enough thing where it's like, I get this as being the representation of who this guy is. You know, Ghostface Killah had his song on the Raekwon album about him hitting on a chick, and this is the continuing saga of ODB trying to hit on a chick, and, you know, it doesn't go as well. It's, you know, you get the GTA failed at the end, but, you know, this is his attempt, you know what I mean? Then we get Snakes, which, like, how did you feel about this one?
I think this was the fucking turnaround. Like, this was a fucking standout. It felt like they were almost apologizing for how whack the last few songs were. Like, yeah. Okay, we need to make a fucking difference. We need to turn this ship
Gotta pick
around.
this up. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I really liked Snakes, a fucking wu-tang posse cut.
Mm-hmm.
You get huge RZA and Master Killer verses.
Oh, man.
An appearance by Buddha Monk. I don't know why he was there. I could barely hear his verse. It was fucking buried in the production.
This is absolutely infuriating. Let's talk about it. Okay?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Fucking Snakes, Killer Priest, the one man who was, he was supposed to be a part of the Wu-Tang Clan, but he got high on shrooms or dust or something like that the night they were recording The Mystery of Chess Boxing, and Master Killer recorded the verse instead, and the rest is history. And he's always been the one that's like, oh, you just missed the registration for being a part of the Wu-Tang Clan. He's like, oh no, can you let me in? No, I guess not. Oh, and by the way, Capadonna's the 10th member now. And like, oh, you just missed it again. Oh
my god.
But yeah, Killer Priest coming in, proving why he should have been that 10th member. And it's now here's what's insane about his verse, right? Is that it's like it doesn't end on a punchline; it ends on like a broken dream. It's like the lyrics are, it sounds like the opposite of rap verse about like, I'm killing these dudes and wetting up the elevators with blood. Like he's like, this is the verse of being the victim of that. You know what I mean? But like, and his voice sounds so like affected. I mean, disaffected. Where he's just like, because he starts the verse, what did he say? Like, he said, stay strong, because this life is now over. Like, there's something about, like, the way it starts that sounds so hopeless. It's like, oh, yeah, that's what he says. It broke me up when they pat me on the shoulder. Said, stay strong, because this life is now over. A flashback to the heathens that he rolled with. They shot him up, and now nobody knows shit. And then when he paints this whole fucking picture, and then when he gets to the end, where he gets to the part where he's like, how does it? Oh yeah, he says, like blood starts to flood the floor from the elevator door. That's the last thing that I saw. Damn, we planned to make grands and buy a home. And then it's just like, and you hear like, it sounds like the door's just closing on his fate. Like, as it just cuts to the neck. It's just so insane, that moment. It's just like, oh my god. And then like cuts to like RZA's verse, which sounds like he's the guy who did it, he's the fellow who did it, Jagged Edge, Rockhead God, Heart of Stone Edge. This maybe is like his best fucking verse ever, fucking bar none. The way he just goes on this like imagery, just this tear of imagery. Like he on the block, he was called by the mamas and the grandmas, indecent heathen, juvenile delinquent. His weekends was frequently locked inside the precinct. His most recent case for catching pace was snatching up snakes on the roof, butt naked, hang them out like drapes. Then that's what's the combination to the safe with the brace, and those who didn't apply fell straight to their face. Razor blade sharp, wound fades the darks, and raid more spots than spades and knocks. Iron heart like Tony Stark's. It's just like Jesus Christ. And then like just the way it ends, where it's like he's this problem for everyone who's on this bad side, it's just like and when he come through, niggas be looking out, hoping he gets shot or took it out, or like the fuck up in Brooklyn house in PC on a liquid diet, but he was louder than a riot. It's just like this madman who can't be stopped. And then Master Killer a little bit like lets up the energy a bit, but I feel like he not enough to kill it. It's just kind of like, this is what Master Killer does. But then, man, I gotta say, Old Dirty Bastard absolutely shits the bed and drops the ball. What the fuck is he talking about? Okay, so here's the thing. Like, the opening line kind of works, where he's like, bad, Leroy Brown, baddest man in the whole damn town. Like, if he would have actually done something with that and actually flipped off of that into something else, but then he keeps going and it kind of slows down the thing even more after Master Killer, it's like, better than the deep blue sea. Like, it's just like, okay, you should have said something else by now that was original, you know what I mean? Like, and then to jump off of that, niggas coming through the trees like a salamander, biting like a piranha, like salamander and piranha. Like, come on, we're doing this at the tail end of the word rhymes. You know what I mean? It's like, stop this. The salamander. And this is what I was thinking. It's like, why weren't the fucking overwhelming VFX sounds on this fucking part instead of Buddha Monk's part? Because his part comes in at the fucking tail. It's like ODB kind of drops it, and then Buddha Monk just picks it up right again with like just 6 bars at the tail end, but you can barely hear it. But from what you can hear, it's clearly incredible and way better than ODB's verse. And you're just like, why can't we hear what he's saying? And why do we have to hear coming through the trees like a salamander? That's not threatening. Like, Like, you should have put the foot. Like, it would have been so much better if he's like, coming through the trees. Like, oh, what did he say? I don't really know what he said. Oh, there was some attacking, sword sounds over it. I don't really know what he's saying. Something, maybe a salamander, but I don't know. But, oh, did you hear that Buddha monk verse? That was incredible. Why the fuck would you have his verse? I don't understand. But I say, Buddha chill. And then just ODB having the nerve to be like, I ain't gotta rhyme no more. Niggas, no. It's like, no, you don't have to rhyme anymore. Buddha monk should have been rhyming more. Oh man, but then we get Brooklyn Zoo Part 2, which just, this is the most falling apart of the falling apart. Like, it's falling away from them, falling away from them.
My first note is, why is this?
How is this the sequel to Brooklyn Zoo?
Okay, look. I just want to read this before we get into our own personal opinions. This is someone's genius annotation, okay? A song off ODB's debut album. The song is half studio, and the final half is ODB spitting wisdom on stage. Fellow wu-tang MC Ghostface Killah has a great verse, and the beat is laced by RZA. ODB's verse was previously used on Damage featuring Jizza, but the beauty of Dirty's flow is that no matter how many times he spat the same verse, he always switched it up, and it always sounded fresh and dope, even if you'd heard these rhymes before. There really was no father to his style, and he will always be remembered as one of the greats. The dick riding here is crazy! Whoa!
What are you
shit!
talking about? No, what happened was these were the best takes
on
they
stage,
could get.
was he?
Yeah, these were the best takes
Fuck
they could
off.
get. I'll grab the mic and I'll damage you, crush your stamina. Oh shit, that's not what rhymes. I gotta say it like this. I'll grab the mic and I'll damage you, crush your stamina. It's like.
And this is what we fucking waste Ghostface on.
Yeah, yo, Unique, yo, kid, check this shit out. It's like, why is he on this? I don't understand. And then
He got lost. Like, they seriously, they putting Ghostface on the song was their way of saving it. I don't know why it needed to be here at all.
Yeah.
What was the point of this?
And just the way it's done, yo, all types of shit, yo, let that shit right, yeah, shit, yo, check this out. This is strictly for the radio. What are you talking about?
This would never get played on the radio. What the fuck are you talking about? So, I liked the new beat. I thought the beat was really cool.
Yeah, if there was an actual fucking some dope shit being rapped, like, if he had flipped up these rhymes,
yeah,
like,
imagine.
If it was like, these are the alternate takes of this rap verse. I originally wanted to rap it this way, but then we wanted to use it. That would have been a cool look at the behind the scenes, but in front of you on the actual album. But it's so clearly you guys are just fucking around, and this is it. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, yeah.
I like the Ghostface verse too. But then, after that, it's just a half-assed, I don't know how many, no matter how many times he says it, it's a half-assed delivery of the Damage verse. Yeah. It's like, not even putting his fucking all into it. Half of it,
it's so clearly, I'm just doing a first take, and just kind of, let's see where it goes as I say it, like, yeah.
Sounds awful. Then there's a montage of other songs from the album, like the fucking Prince soundtrack. Put me in the electric chair, whatever the fuck that Prince song.
I feel like we're in a fucking anime, and they're doing like, the commercial break in the next episode. Here's where you left off. He was drunk in this song. They stitched together a rap verse with a jizz on this song. Remember that? Yeah, that's what you just heard. It's like, what are we doing? Why are we doing this? Yeah.
The live portion is so fucking long, and I didn't listen to it. Like, I skipped it. Like, I realized, this is just gonna be it for the rest of it? Why would I listen to this?
Yeah, it literally just goes, see, rap to me is like my bitch. It's like my bitch, and she fucks another dude, and I'll get mad, and I want to kill the bitch, and I want to kill the nigga. See, this is how you must step up to the microphone. And it's like, I guess it's like he said, like, that's how you gotta engage with rap. Like you want to kill everybody, I guess. I feel like there's a more succinct way you could have said that, but it's just like so just free-wheeling, just like stream of consciousness. But the weird thing about it is, like, I almost enjoy it as a sort of like, this is the dirty versions, right? This is what, just like the other song in Going Down, where it's like, the verses are honestly the least interesting part of it. The interesting part of it is the things happening around it that gives you the atmosphere of this person's life, right? Where it's like, oh yeah, this is him doing an open mic night where he's just bullshitting around. That's the reality of what he do in an open mic night. But the weird thing about it is, it's like, it becomes this thing where like, oh man, and this is what ODB would be like in an open mic night. Isn't that crazy? And you're just like listening to it, it's like, not really. This actually sounds like it's just be a little annoying and be like, can he get to the point? I just wanted to hear the song. I just, like.
And look, I'm just gonna say, between this and who is it? Pharaoh Monch? The They Ain't Fucking a Right. Remember that song?
Oh yeah.
Who did that? Like, I'm just gonna say, comparing rap to a woman, stop that. No one's ever done it good. It gets lost in the sauce. It's a bad metaphor.
I used to love her as the only person who needs to do it. You know what I mean? That's fine. Common did it the one time.
That was okay.
One. Yeah, that was fine. It was competent.
Did you know that he's talking about hip-hop as a genre in that song?
Oh my god.
He's talking about the city of Chicago.
See, at the end, he kind of gives it away if you listen real close.
If you listen, you gotta listen close, though.
Who I'm talking about here is hip-hop.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's that shit to get you thinking.
That's the thinking man shit.
If you hear this verse said a different way, it takes out the strength of the energy of that moment of him saying it how he said it the first time. Because it's like, watch your ass take a big fall. Why? Because my main source is like a friendly game of stickball. Like, if you're hearing that really quick on the way to another rhyme, that sounds fine. But when it's slower like this, it's like, I'm kind of hearing how much, like, I'm thinking more about the logic of how this actually doesn't really work, you know what I mean? Like, and how it's not really that clever, like, yeah. But then we get Protect Your Neck to the Zoo, which, a sequel song which I actually feel kind of earns it in a weird way.
I wasn't really sure what to make of this one.
So, the weird thing about this, it's like, it's not a Protect Your Neck, Inspect the Deck, everyone's spitting as lyrical as possible. This is it's about the energy of everyone being like as high energy as they are saying what they're saying. And like, again, it's one of those things where it's like again, it's not about the lyricism, it's about the power of what's being said. Because, and this is an interesting tidbit that I had learned. So you know how it starts where it sounds really intense and you're trying to figure out what's being said? It's like, yo, fuck that shit, don't fuck at all! Like, you hear that sort of thing in the background, you're like, what is happening? You're like, you don't, oh, y'all motherfuckers, no, you da-da-da, and you're like trying to figure out like who's saying what, who's talking to who. So I had found out that apparently there was an argument that was legitimately happening in the studio where everyone was like legitimately like arguing, getting angry with each other about something about like what they wanted to do with like the recording. So it was legitimately a heated moment, and Old Dirty Bastard was trying to diffuse it, and he was like, I got an idea, and he's like, start recording, and apparently Old Dirty Bastard just starts singing, oh Lassie, and like everyone's like arguing, like, what the fuck, you're not taking it serious, what the fuck, and he's like, oh Lassie, and he's like starts pointing at the recording, he's like, what the fuck, and it's like, yeah, I was like, that's right, motherfucker, I'm gonna let all y'all motherfuckers know, if you're from Queens, whether you're from Brooklyn or Manhattan, you ain't gonna do nothing with these motherfuckers tonight. And so it's just like, all right, everyone go. And so it's like, we got the energy, everyone's hyped up, and instead of getting angry at each other, let's just start rapping.
Oh,
so it's like,
Jesus.
So it's like a weird emotional, let's diffuse the energy by, instead of being angry at each other, using that power to best each other in the combat of the arena of rap, and so it's like, on that level, it's impressive, but yeah, like individually, the line for line is not incredible, but like the energy is so high that it kind of makes up for it. So, like, it's that sort of thing, So it's so weird. Because, yeah, if you listen, it feels so unstructured, right? Where it's like, Old Dirty Bastard's like, so it stacks out. This one's the blackout. See your mouth, blah. And dirty, hear me? Your raw is inflicted. It's the G-type shit that makes it real sticky. It's like the hands, put the trigger on. Yo, drop it all about it. Like, it sounds like they're trying to outdo each other just in power, if you notice, So it's like, it's kind of fascinating in that way. So, like, it's one of those, like, I understand it technically not being the best, but just the raw, like, just jumping into a, it's a spiritual successor. It's not a lyrical successor.
Then we get this unfinished demo of a song.
Oh my god.
Cutting heads.
And you know what's infuriating about this? As I listened back to it, I was like, the rhymes actually aren't that bad, but it's
that was okay for what it was.
So awful. Like, it's just like, dude, re-record this shit. Why would you put this on the album?
Yeah.
In the background, very bad. Oh no, I don't play. It's like, dude, you have a studio now. Why do you not want to re-record? Because I could see this being like a bridge, like the Damage song. This being like we're still in the early 90s and we're trying to do a bridge to a newer style. So we're like, here I go, with a friend, with a foe, with a flow, that I flow over the rainbow, let them know that I like that they're, playing with shit and trying to bring these old routines back in a fun way that's still sort of fresh. But like the fact that it's so badly recorded, and also that they like clearly didn't update some of the lyrics, so it still feels kind of like it even at the time this feels dated. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it said it was from the first Wu-Tang demo tape. It's like, what the fuck is it doing here then?
Yeah. And like, I think it's a track like this that really brought down and added to what felt like the cheapness of the album, going back to it now that I think about it, because this is so late. And like, for this to be included, it's like, no, all points count, man. You can't just go, well, it's at the end. It's like, no, this still is a part of it, and it drags it down, especially, this is one of the parting things you're going to leave us with. The ending song's even more crucial. Yeah, and so it always threw me off to be like, oh, this is why the album always felt like a little lesser, because even for the higher moments, by the time we get here, like, having... I will say a couple of songs in a row that are very lackluster. It's just kind of like, we just ended with a sputter, so we got Cutting Heads, which doesn't even fade out properly. Like, it's like it does the almost about, like, you can hear the, it's almost fade, and then it just cuts out before it fully fades. Like, well, god damn it, you couldn't even do the ending properly.
You couldn't even re-record an outro.
Yeah, and then we get Dirty Dancing again, the limp fart of a Method Man ODB collab, which honestly sounds like Method Man's starting to try to rhyme a little bit, but it feels like ODB's just trying to fuck with him and make him laugh. Like, there's just a disproportionate amount of time spent on the halfway reference gay joke of the Martin Lawrence thing of, you used to dip your head in the water.
Yeah, what is that doing there?
Yeah, why does it go on for so long? It's like, this isn't funny.
It's like, if we know the bit, you're just biting the bit.
Yeah.
You're just doing the bit. Like, you're not even, like, doing it different. You're just doing it word for word.
Yeah, and slower and more annoying.
I liked Method Man on the track, and I liked how overly, like, how creepy the song was, especially the "you're getting sleepy" part. I thought that was kind of fun. But I actually liked the track overall, especially, you didn't mention it yet, but... There's a weird yelling in the background.
Oh yeah.
There's just like, ah! Ah! I can't explain it. You just gotta go back and you listen to it. It's kind of like, it's just in the background, very subtle, just like, ah! Ah!
And you're hearing what sounds like wind chimes or something going.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah.
It's a very creepy song.
But the thing is, ODB doesn't match it. It sounds like he's not hearing what Method Man and the beat are trying to do, and he's just trying to make everyone laugh. And it's just like, dude, what are you doing? Like, we're going for something here. We're going for atmosphere. And because when he's rapping, he's clearly doing these written in exactly in 1991, June of 1991 raps, where it's like, super logical this, super logical rap. I detect your dialect by the way you rap. I elect myself presidential. Like, this is so detached from anything. This is the most super lyrical miracle nonsense. My career is so intelligent, unique physique. Doing mathematics and I'm not democratic. Static topic, Asiatic. I'm thumbing through the thesaurus and the dictionary to find a bunch of big words. You know what I mean? And then, this is the one where I was like, it's so funny. He's doing all of these hyper lyrical raps, which are supposed to be, automatically respectable points. But honestly, the best part was when he goes, Mr. My name is Old Dirty Bat, my game to kick your ass. Like, just doing intro music for Method Man's verse. Quick and relax, take an X, lax, I'm shitting on the industry. Just the fact that he was that intro for him, that just intro trumpet sound was way better than anything lyrically you were just saying. So I want to highlight that as the dope lyric of that song. And finally, we get Harlem World, which, okay, I want to say something, because there was something that I never appreciated before of what was happening in this verse that I didn't realize. Because at first, this one's always felt like the big dud of the album, where it's just like, it's just nothing happening. It's just do, 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 and it's just like, wastes a whole bunch of fucking time at the beginning, again, with these old school, like, straight up mid-80s routines. I remember, straight up just aping Hollywood swinging for like a minute and a half. And
yeah.
And except I guess it's through the perspective of the hater of the Wu-Tang Clan, you know, because he went to see the Wu-Tang show and he wanted to rap like them, but he's going mad. He's I can't rap like them, I guess. So now his rapping to me always felt like weirdly half low energy as a kid, but now that I'm an adult, I'm weirdly seeing what he's doing, and it's not like a thing that you can appreciate just listening to, but it's like an interesting sort of like how he's playing with the expectation of where the rhymes are and like not giving it to you, but then when he gives it to you, it's like starting the next line and shit like that. Like, I never realized that before, but I'm actually kind of appreciating that now in a way that's like, oh, that kind of gives that a little bit of like appreciation, but like the aesthetic of the song is still not enjoyable ultimately. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, I appreciate what you're doing from a technical perspective, but it still leaves this Swiss cheesiness of the verse, you know, which still starts and stops the energy of it. You know what I mean? And then there's just what was that? You're not the king of the diss, you're the queen of a bitch, you're like homosexual, yeah, it's always switch. And it's like, oh, you almost made it through a full album without the homophobia. Yeah.
Man.
You made it so close.
Oh.
And I was almost, see, the thing is, I was almost about to be like, oh, you know, someone walks with a switch, you know, it's kind of like a girl or a woman is like, okay, so if Todrick Hall said that lyric, that wouldn't be too bad, you know, and then he double taps the homophobia with a, you dick-sucking motherfucking cold-hearted, it's like, oh, come on, stop.
I have no idea where that fucking came from. I was
cold-hearted, like what?
I was so, man, like, Rav and Kill Bill and myself had this whole talk last week about homophobia in rap lyrics, and, you know, sometimes people throw the F slur around as just like another insult for people, and they don't really mean it in a way. It really does come down to tone, though. Like, even if I didn't get a homophobic vibe from ODB, when you're yelling shit like that, like, right, that's off-putting as fuck.
Yeah,
like,
what am I supposed to think?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know. I hate that there was so many, well, at least there were a few. I'm not going to say so many. But there were some really strong cuts on this album, but there is so much more mediocre to kind of bad than good, unfortunately.
Now, I will say on this track, like, there were one or two lyrics that I had appreciated that I didn't realize what was happening before. Like, these are, like, super grimy, whatever the fuck, like, these are the dirty, you know, trash can, you know, the dumpster juice raps, you know what I mean? He's like, you can't smile, your teeth are too shitty, you can't even move, your drawers are shitty. You know what else? You're shaped like a thistle. The holes in your drawers when you fart, them shits whistle. Like, I had never heard that line before, because he says, the holes in your drawers when you fart, them shits, and then you hear a little whistle, and I never realized what was happening.
Oh.
So I was like, oh my God. So it caught me off guard. And then the part where he says, like, you wear your socks 12 days in a row, turn them shits to the other side so the dirt won't show. Like, that just sounds like something he actually observed of someone, you know, when he was calling them out, like, aha, I see you, fucking cheapskate. Your mom don't have a laundry, your mom don't have a fucking washer and dryer, does she? I fucking caught you, asshole, you know? And then, what was that, the one rhyme where he says, like, hog flesh MC, go play in the mud, another 20th century, modern day, and then he cuts out. And then you hear him say, cannibal, humanoid, underground dweller, chud broke loose from the goddamn cellar. So it's like a weird sort of delaying of the rhyme that he was doing there that I didn't realize. And he's delaying it because he's saying cannibal, humanoid, underground. So I'm saying the rhyme through saying what the phrase is. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's kind of interesting and cool. Not enough to save the song, but, you know, it's something. You know what I mean? it's kind of like, oh, you're thinking there, but that's not enough to really save this. And man, if that doesn't come down to getting to our ratings, I gave it ultimately. So as I'm rating this thing, man, let me give you what the rating I put down was, right? Because we're always trying to, either round up or round down. But this is what the raw rating was. It was 3.7647. And you want to know how I got there? Because I do my ratings and stuff like that, and then the more I'm looking at it, the more it's like, well, should it be the 4? Should it be the 3.5? Well, because I'm like, the more I look into it, the more I'm fascinated by certain moments that I didn't appreciate before, like the Brooklyn Zoo and just how cool Brooklyn Zoo really was. I appreciate it even more, really listening to it from a critical ear, and the Protect Your Neck too, and like just how visceral that energy really gets you, and how tracks like Rawhide really were like stars of the track way more than I remember giving it credit for. But so I have that moment of being like, well, that 4.7, well, that 7 could round up to a 5, and that 5 could round up that 6 to a 7, and that 7 could round up, the 3.7647, I could round it up, but then I keep thinking about all those fucking tracks, the wasteland of tracks that were just so bad that it's like, oh no, I could never give it a 4, because come on, there's just so much time where we're just wasting time doing nothing and going through these weird moments. So at the end of the day, the most I could get, 3.5. I think, that sounds about right, because 3 just doesn't sound right enough. There's just enough ambition where it feels like it's more than that. But I cannot give this a 4. I cannot in good conscience, give this a 4. There's just so much that's so weird and wacky. But yeah, that's how I feel. 3.5 feels the most justified at the end of the day. As me, as a tortured soul, trying to do my best, to do my due diligence, to not just be a fanboy, and what I'm saying. The fanboy wants to be, oh, but it's so unique, you gotta give it the 4 to 5. But no, I have to be an honest man.
I got a 3.5 even. I think I had mentioned it that I listened to this album when I was at work. And that's a totally different vibe than when you're home and you're reading along to it. Because when I was at work, I thought this album was charming and just fun and different. But man, when you're really reading along and paying attention, all the cracks start to show.
Right.
And yeah, it's not that great. But that about wraps it up for this week's episode of Going Off. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. I was about to say this afternoon, but it's whenever you're listening to this. If you're listening to this on the drive into work, the drive home from work, if you're listening to it at work, I'm personally very curious. So leave that in the comments, where or when you're listening to this. I'd love to be able to, add that flavor text. Know what part in your day that we play is
and so we can know what self-aware references to make when we go like, you spilled your coffee, didn't you, asshole?
Oh, yeah. Then we tear down that fourth wall, that pesky fourth wall. Who needs it? Mm-hmm. And even though we did our own personal reviewer choice this week, don't forget that we oftentimes, more often than not, review albums requested by listeners, and you can put in a request over at our Ko-fi at ko-fi.com/goinoff. That's GOINOFF. And let's see, we got all the links in the description, our Twitters, our Patrons, our Ko-fis, our YouTubes. We got the Fan House popping off on the Riffcom side. We got Rope Break episodes going up on a weekly basis at this point. At least we're trying to keep up with that.
Oh, and to let you know, on my Ko-fi, if you are a Patreon subscriber at patreon.com/rapcritic, you can get Ko-fi subscription. You can get Ko-fi requests half off anything that's over $15. So yeah, if you're doing a movie request, you know what I'm saying. Any of the other requests, street requests. Yeah. I think that's. Wait, is that included? I never remember what the hell the prices are. But anything that's over $15 of the requests that I'm doing, personal requests, stuff like that, it's half off if you are a Patreon subscriber. So it's kind of like, hey, if you already support me over here in a small way, then, whenever you're giving over here, you're getting half off. You know what I'm saying? For helping your boy out, you know what I'm saying, on that monthly basis. So get with it, act like you want it. That's how we're doing things.
Maybe I'll try to get someone to co-host next week.
I know now that I officially have plans for every time we're going to do this. My official plan is, for every one of these reviewer requests, I'm going to be going through the dregs of Wu-Tang Clan. That this is officially my plan now. We're going to be going through the second ODB album, then we're going to be going through the disappointing Inspective Deck albums. We're going to be going through all the Wu-Tang duds to see what really was great or bad. As I rub my hands like Birdman. I'm now inspired.
Oh, no. Damn. You're going down the Dr. Goatman route.
Yeah.
Respectable.
It's my podcast. I'm in control. Me, mine.
Down. Mine.
Yeah, right.
Well, folks, we will see you next time on Going Off. But until then, I'm Muse.
And I'm the Rap Critic. And we're the baddest music podcast. I don't care if you care. I just give what you receive.